Tan vacío. That means the people were partying last night. Parece que sí. We were, you know how we are. We love a good party, and so it shows because we don't have people here. But then I'm going to blame it on the buses. I'm going to blame it on the buses that they're still out there trying to get everybody in here. But good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to get started. I know that there's buses that are dropping off, and we still have people registered are downstairs trying to get in. So we're going to just keep going so we don't hold anybody up from today's activities. So I want to just start real quickly. Are there any veterans in the room? Can you please stand up, our veterans, and lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance? Everybody, please rise. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you for your service in the service. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. So, a little recap. What did you think about last night? Wasn't that a great night? I think for me, being here in Chicago and knowing that the Obamas are our family, watching Michelle and Barack get up there and really hit it home to us was very emotional. It was great. We will never, ever thank them enough for the work that they did the 8 years that they were in the White House. So again, to my former colleague in the Senate, Barack Obama, and to, of course, the incredible, fabulous Michelle Obama, I have to say thank you. And last night was such an inspiration to women. She was amazing, but let me tell you, it's only going to get better when we elect the first female to the presidency. And we can have the opportunity in this lifetime to call our president Madam President. So I'm looking forward to that. So we're gonna vary off the schedule a little bit because we're still getting people to come in, and we want to make sure that we give opportunity to everyone who wants to come and say hi to you and bring a message. We're giving them allowing a little bit of time, so bear with us. I thank you for your patience. I know it's been a little trying and a little challenging, but we're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to make this caucus meeting the best that you guys ever have. So thank you. He's here. He's here. All right. To start things off, we're going to continue all we have to do with Harris Walls. I want to just say that here we are very proud that we have with us, joining us today. He is the Deputy Chief of Staff to Vice President Kamala Harris, and that is Sergio Gonzalez. Where is he at? There he is, to come and share some few words of the campaign. Sergio, welcome. It's great to see Latinos really being in front of this campaign. We love it. Sergio.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
Please.
so much. Buenos dias. Good morning. How's everybody feeling? Everybody's feeling good? Partying too late?
Yes.
Well, it is a party, right? Because what we're seeing during this convention in Chicago is just incredible enthusiasm, incredible energy. It's electric. It really is. And I think that really is a testament to the Vice President and Governor Walz and what they're creating, whether it's here or it's in Wisconsin last night with 15,000 people at the same time, right? It's 77,000 people showing up for events in battleground states just last week. So look, we have this momentum, and I just want to take a moment, Iris, to thank you. I want to thank the caucus, the tremendous work that has been done here by all of you to lay that foundation, the organizing in our communities, because we know that Latinos are critical voters in this election. And this campaign is extremely focused on and committed to, from the top of the ticket, earning every single Latino vote. We will not take any Latino vote for granted. We are in the community, and that has been a center point of this campaign from day one. I know Julie Chavez Rodriguez spoke here on Monday, and I just want to thank her leadership, because she has always been very clear that we are going to invest the time, we're going to invest the resources, we're going to invest the staff to make sure that we have historic turnout as we head into this election. And I just want to talk a little bit as somebody who's worked for the vice president for a while. I started working for her when she was elected to the Senate back in 2017. And many of you now are starting, already maybe knew some things about the vice president. Some people are learning more about the vice president right now. And here's what we know, right? We knew that she's a daughter of Oakland, California. We know that she grew up with a strong, loving, working mother who taught her values around hard work and community and giving back and making sure that she's leaving the world and the country in a better place than when she found it. She had a summer job at McDonald's growing up in a middle-class family. And then she decides to become an attorney. And why did she decide to become an attorney? She decides to become an attorney because she wanted to protect women and girls. And she specializes in cases, and you've heard this from speakers on the stage, she specializes in cases related to sexual assault and domestic violence. It tells you a lot about her from the very beginning. She always talks about when she walked into the courtroom for the first time and she uttered the words, Kamala Harris, for the people. Yes. And so, that mantra, for the people, that has been, I think, the defining feature of her entire career and the work that she's done. When she took on big banks in California for homeowners, that was for the people, many of those banks scammed Latino homeowners. They lost their homes in that crisis, and she fought for them. She fought big polluters. Many of the people, many of the victims of that pollution, Latinos. She fought and took on for-profit colleges that were scamming its students. Many of those students, Latinos. And then she's elected to the United States Senate, and I'll just take a moment, because we remember when Donald Trump ran and descended, as President Obama said, that golden escalator back in 2016, he started his whole political journey to the White House by attacking Latinos, right? Talking about xenophobia and trying to divide us and spread fear and spread hate. And in particular, talking about things like mass deportation, talking about deporting dreamers. And so when I started working for the vice president back in 2017, right after she was elected, California is home to one of the nation's largest population of dreamers. She sat down with me and she wanted to talk about our plan to make sure that we were protecting dreamers in every way possible, and DACA recipients. Okay? And as vice president, of course, she has been doing and putting in the work in talking directly to Latino communities and working on the issues that matter most to our communities. Okay? Reproductive freedom. Right after the Dobbs decision, she got to work. She started traveling the country, convening people, including Latinas and Latinos in places like Phoenix and Tucson, in Las Vegas, and across this country to fight back and talk about what is at stake on reproductive freedom. First ever head of the Office of Gun Violence in the White House. Incredibly important issue to our community, right? Just earlier this month, we had the anniversary of the El Paso shooting. This is something that resonates across our communities and we care about. And of course, as she is really centered in this campaign, it is about lowering costs and building the middle class, a defining feature of what she is offering as the promise for America. Lowering the cost of rent, helping people, first-time home buyers buy a home, lowering the cost of groceries, making sure that we're capping the cost of prescription drugs. And I just want to tell this little story for a minute. A few months ago, we were in Las Vegas, and we were in a photo line. And there was a woman, Latina, and she brought up her mom, and her mom spoke Spanish. And this mom, the daughter, looks at the vice president, and she has a stack of paper, like receipts with her. And the vice president says, "What are those receipts you have?" And this woman looks over at her mom and says, she shows her one receipt, and one receipt was thousands of dollars for the cost of insulin that they were paying. And then she shows her the other receipt, right? Other receipt, under $40, because of what this administration has done, because of the vice president's leadership. That's real leadership. That's real results. That's what the vice president is talking about, okay? Donald Trump, we know he's a grifter. We know he's not interested in helping our communities. We know that he stands with his wealthy friends and big corporations, right? And so we need to make sure in this election we are making the contrast between the promise of America. What does the promise of America mean? It's about the American dream, something that is so fundamentally rooted in our community, in what we do, in the way that we work, right? It's hard work, it's family, it's determination, it's aspiration. These are all values that you know Kamala Harris has led with her entire career and her entire life. So as somebody who has worked with her very up close, I am so excited about this nomination, and we're gonna get to work, right?
Yes,
Because in under, we're just about 70 days, we're gonna elect Kamala Harris to the White House.
that's right.
Thank you all for everything that you're gonna do. Because cuando luchamos, ganamos! Oh, yes.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you the honors, but we have a little surprise for you. I think it's a great surprise because this is a phenomenal lady that we're gonna bring up. You all know her, but you didn't believe that she's going to be. She was here with us today, and she's going to address you. And I am just so proud to have her here at the Hispanic Caucus. And I'm gonna have this gentleman introduce her.
Okay, we have another special guest today, and I just want to say it's somebody who also has known the vice president for a while and can speak really, I think, in personal terms about who the vice president is. And I just also want to take Eva Longoria. Man, talk about somebody who has put in the work. Since the 2008 election, and I'm sure before, well, first of all, as we all learned last night, a proud Texas native. Okay, if you didn't catch that roll call, she's bringing that Tejano energy to us today. That's raucous. Okay, and then secondly, I just want to say, Eva has been such a tremendous partner to the vice president, and truly, in Latino communities, investing money, investing time, investing resources, literally getting out the vote to make sure that while we're building Latino political power, that has been such a critical mission of hers. And she has done everything to make that a reality. And so she's a personal friend, and we are so grateful for her for all the work she is putting into electing the vice president. Eva Longoria.
Good morning. Oh, hi. Do this. How are y'all? Buenos días. Buenos días. I'm so excited. I was just popping by and Sergio was like, you should speak. So I have nothing prepared. And all I really want to say is thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In advance for the work that you will be doing in the next 11 weeks. We have a lot of work to do to make sure that our community, the Latino community, the Hispanic community, is safe. And it's a very clear choice because we have one candidate who's using Latino issues and Latinos as a scapegoat, as a political agenda, really demonizing who we are, demonizing our contributions, minimizing our contributions to this country. And then you have the other side of Kamala, who sees us and values our contributions that we have been making to this country for centuries. centuries. So I just want to say, please take this time seriously. We have so much work to do. And I think one of the big issues for Latinos, people think it's always immigration and all this stuff. That's important. But the argument of the economy is something that I think we're not articulating well enough to our Latino brothers and sisters. And so I encourage you guys to get out there and really get rid of that disinformation, the misinformation, especially in Spanish language. Our Spanish language brothers and sisters are being targeted with misinformation, and we have to help them. And so, a couple things, we have the strongest economy in the world right now. This is a fact. And so Republicans, for some reason, have always owned this issue. We're better at the economy. You are not. And specifically with this candidate, with Kamala, she's done so much with policy issues, and Democratic policies have really disproportionately helped Latino families and Latino pocketbooks. If you think about the Biden administration with Kamala's help, when they did the Recovery Act, when they pulled us out of COVID, and they really put our economy back on track, that was this amazing team. And you know who that affected? Most of the essential workers that were out there during COVID, Latinos. For the first time in history, farm workers were deemed essential workers. We didn't need a pandemic to tell us farm workers are essential to our economy. They, this administration also passed the PACT Act, which gave veterans health care. You know how many Latinos serve in our armed forces? We are patriotic and we are proud. And that PACT Act really affected our families who are having health problems because of the service that they provide to this country. We also had the CHIPS Act, which boosted manufacturing jobs. The Biden administration added 16 million new jobs. A third of those went to Latinos. Okay? So these are the things we have to be talking about. We are doing great with the economy, and Kamala's only going to double down on that. She's, already talked about making sure that Latinos have a pathway to owning a home, doing a first-time buyer a down payment program. There are so many things that we're going to benefit from if we can get her into office. And I can't even touch on reproductive rights as women, as Latinas. If that alone doesn't get us to the polls. And so what happened last time was half of the Latinos that were eligible to vote sat it out. They sat out. They did not participate. That's what we cannot have again. That's what cannot happen again. On my Instagram, there's a WhatsApp chat that gives you all the right information. So I encourage you guys to go on there, be on that WhatsApp chat, and then you can use that information to disseminate into your communities, to your tíos, to your tías, to your hermanas, to your hermanos, to your whole family. Because it's important that we protect our community from misinformation. It's hurting us. And there's a lot of people who want us to stay home. There's a lot of people who want to suppress our vote. And so not only do we have to make sure they're registered to vote, but we're going to have to make sure they have a voting plan, because there are so many voter suppression laws that have passed that you need this ID and you need your polling place changed and your county's different. And there's so many obstacles that they are putting in our way. And there's a reason, because they know the Latino vote will be the deciding factor in this election. So I want to say thank you. And like Michelle said last night, we got to do something, right? Do something. Do anything. Volunteer, knock on doors, make some calls, do some phone banking. I will be out there with you. So we can do this together. We're going to get her nominated, and we're going to make history. And I would love for us to do it in an overwhelming fashion so that they go, wow, the Latino vote in all of these places was the difference. So let's do it. Sí se puede.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Listen to reason. Listen to a smart woman who is out there campaigning. Eva Longoria, thank you so much for making your presence here, for being out there for Kamala Harris and for Tim Walz. And I know that we, the Latinos, are going to deliver the vote to bring her to the White House. I feel it. I sense it. It's going to happen. It's about the Latino coming out to vote. So thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate your time. Let me bring up one of my executive members of my team here, Luis Heredia from Arizona.
Buenos días, gente. My name is Luis Heredia from the estado de Arizona, and here to have the pleasure introducing one of the highest-ranking members of the Biden administration. Throughout his career, Javier Becerra has made a priority to ensure Americans have access to affordable health care that they need to survive and thrive. From his early days as a legal advocate representing individuals with mental illness to his role as the Attorney General of the great state of California, he served 12 terms in the House of Representatives from the downtown Los Angeles district, and he served in the powerful Ways and Means Committee. While he was serving in Congress, he was the chairman of the U.S. Democratic Caucus. Without further ado, Javier Becerra.
All right, so be straight with me. How many of you came straight from partying last night to this session today, huh? 2 hours. You probably went partying just like that, right, in those shorts, but it's the Kamala Harris t-shirt that really counts. There you go. Listen, I'm pleased to be here, thrilled to be here. You know what's interesting? I can tell you I'm Javier Becerra, but I can't tell you what I do, because officially, I would be violating the Hatch Act if I were to tell you what I do. So I could tell you that I'm thrilled to be here as citizen Javier Becerra, as advocate Javier Becerra, as someone who has known the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris, for many years, Javier Becerra, as someone who has had a chance to work directly with President Joe Biden, Javier Becerra. But I can't tell you what I do as a day job. But what I can tell you is we have done a lot. And as Monday we found out, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have done a lot for this country. In fact, in the history books, hopefully will be written, because if another guy takes office, they won't write history books anymore. In those history books, you will read a lot about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all that they did. But here's the most important part of that. They opened the door for so many of the people who are in this room who look like us. And that is what is so important. So here's my pitch to you. As I see someone like Arturo Rodriguez sitting right there, keeping busy, who can speak as the proud father of the campaign manager of the Harris-Walz campaign, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, and knows exactly what it's like, because before he could say he was a proud papa of the campaign manager who's going to get Kamala Harris elected as president of the United States, he was the guy who was helping farm workers make sure they had justice in the United Farm Workers. And so we build, and we build, because there's something going on. If any of you caught any of this stuff, and sometimes you can't help but see some of that in the news, what went on in the other convention as opposed to what's going on in this convention. By the way, wow, is it tough for that husband to follow Michelle Obama after she speaks, huh? But it's like convention versus convention. What is it? It's like those two books, right? Tale of the Two Cities, or Angels and Demons. It's just a different place. And so here's what I would say to you. We know where the angels are. We know what we got to do. And I hope that I'm speaking to people who are doing this because you know, like I know, that somebody held the door open so I could get through and be the first in my family to get that college degree, to be the first in my family to have a chance to run for elected office and get there. The first in my family, actually probably first in my state, to actually get to serve in the cabinet as a Latino from the great state of California. But I will say this to you, the door has to stay open. This election is about keeping the door open. And so, to Chair Martinez, to the entire Hispanic Caucus, to each and every one of you who are elevating the status of the Democratic Party and who are going to make sure that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are elected to be the next president and vice president of the United States. One word, ganas. Ganas. And as I tell people, please don't look it up in the dictionary. It's not just desire. You know, you don't say desire, ganas. You know, you got to have ganas. Guts, grit, and game all in one. When we bring ganas to the table, we win. We win. So bring your ganas to this table on November 5th. When we win, it will be because there's a community that's full of ganas that knows how to do it. So let's do it together. Thank you, Democrats. Thank you, Hispanic Caucus. Great to see you.
We have a great panel coming up, and I'm going to bring up my other executive member of this wonderful leadership here of the Hispanic Caucus, Artie. We all know Artie Blanco. Artie she's a force to be reckoned with. This woman is, phenomenal. She's just relentless. But she will introduce the next panel. And I just want to say personally, on the next panel coming up, these are my homegirls from here. So you're going to see two incredible women that are going to be introduced that I served in the General Assembly with when I was a state senator. So I'm so happy to have them both here. And I'm just looking forward to hearing them on this issue. Thank you so much. Artie.
Gracias. Buenos días. Buenos días. Oye, ¿ya tomaron su café o qué? Ya. Okay, so I'm so excited. There's so many issues that touch our community, and on immigration is a key issue because I'm first generation. I'm first generation Mexicana, Tejana, American. I'm first generation Democrat, right? And this is what this is about this country. So I want to bring up this very powerful chingona panel that's about to come up here. But I want to first introduce my sister who's going to bring up the rest of the panel. And this young lady, I met her. Yes, I'm saying young lady, Steph. I'm sorry, I got to do it, girl. I turned 50 this year, pero tú sabes. So listen, I'm going to bring up this young lady. We first worked in Colorado on the Obama campaign in 2008, very closely together. We knew each other. But until you're in the trenches con sus hermanas y hermanos in the campaign, that's when you know who really has the ganas and the grit and the chingon power to get it done. My sister, my homegirl, Stephanie. Stephanie, come on up. Stephanie Valencia. Vámonos. With X Research.
Como Latinos, we're running un poco behind, so we are going to do this really, really fast, this immigration panel. It's a super important topic. I want to first invite Representative Delia Ramirez up to the stage. She has represented Illinois' 3rd Congressional District since 2023. She's the vice-ranking member of Homeland Security, Veterans Affairs, part of the Progressive Caucus, part of the CHC. One really important story about Representative Ramirez is her personal story really helped to move President Biden related to the immigration relief policy that he just announced a couple of months ago. So she has an incredibly powerful immigration story personally. Teresa Romero, who is the president of the United Farm Workers, the first Latina president of the UFW, Si Se Puede. She replaced Arturo Rodriguez, who I saw here in the second row back in 2018, and she is an organizer. We have very strong ties to the farm worker movement through our leader, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, at the campaign. And so, again, coming from organizing, contract bargaining, field organizing, and really just, taking farm workers to the next level to advocate for their issues. And then Dagmara Arbelar is the state representative for the 85th House District here in Illinois in 2020. She has over 2 decades of advocating for working families and immigrant families here in the state of Illinois. So we're going to do a real rapid fire because I know people have places to be, but I want to start by just saying a couple things here at the top, which is we know the role that immigration plays with Latino voters. We also know the importance of having, for the first time ever, an immigrant candidate in Kamala Harris, somebody with immigrant roots, first-generation immigrant. And we know that through our work at ECIS, that immigration is not always the top issue for Latinos. It has played a really important role in critical moments to differentiate between the two parties. So right now, our challenges with Latino voters, trust on the issue of immigration has been broken. We haven't seen action in a very long time, and Democrats don't really hold that same advantage anymore on handling immigration. So I want to start with the question to this panel, because we've only got about 15 minutes here. What is the role that immigration is playing in this election cycle, both broadly and on the ground in the communities that you're working and serving? Teresa, let's start with you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. We have immigration in this country is a very important issue. Immigrants are really contributing a lot to this country. Farm workers, the people that I serve, the people that put food at our tables every day, the majority of them are undocumented. And during the pandemic, they were considered essential and had to work and have absolutely no benefits because they're undocumented. I'm sure that none of you here needed a doctor.
Let's try.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, now I needed to be closer. You know, farm workers are essential workers. Farm workers are the ones that put food on our table. They're undocumented, the majority of them. And without farm workers and without an immigration reform, we're not going to have the food security that we need in our country. Right now, the food is produced here, but by immigrant undocumented workers. It is time that we change that. Probably none of you needed a doctor or an attorney today. But all of us needed a farm worker, and all of us need farm workers 3 times a day, every single day. So an immigration reform right now, immigration changes are needed for the people that are really moving our country forward.
Congresswoman, how are you seeing the landscape in Congress right now?
Well, first of all, bienvenidos a Chicago a todos, bienvenidos. Mira, I serve in Homeland Security as vice ranking member. We talk about border every single committee. It says if cybersecurity is not an issue we should be considering, if other issues that like infrastructure and how we make sure our ports are supported isn't an issue, it's always border. So, you know, as I think about this next election, we know that we've been telling our communities, our immigrant communities, to be patient, to wait. Next election, we'll have immigration reform. And I think the reason that you see that immigration is 4 or 5 is because Latinos and immigrants are sick and tired of making it a priority for themselves when our own government continues to make it a non-priority. And I'll be honest with you, as I see it from our perspective at the national level, folks are tired of waiting. My tío is tired of waiting. My husband is tired of waiting. So many of us have been waiting for such a long time, and they're used constantly as bargaining chips. And you're seeing it right now as Donald Trump continues to weaponize immigrants. It is a critical issue, and we have a daughter of immigrants running to be our president. I think that this is our moment to lean in on the contributions of immigrants instead of stepping back and apologizing for supporting immigrants. And let me end by saying, our number one issue, and Stephanie knows, she's polling us all the time, it's the economy, it's inflation. 96.7 billion, I want you to remember this, 96.7 mil millones de dólares. That is how much immigrants without work permits are contributing in taxes every single year. When we pass immigration reform, that'll be closer to 150 billion. It's good for the economy. It addresses the inflation. So it's still a top issue for the entire election.
Well, Representative Avilar, I want to ask you a question picking up on what Congresswoman Ramirez said, which is, What's different about this moment right now? I think there has been a lot of inaction on immigration reform. We've lost trust with many Latinos because of that inaction. But what is different about Kamala? What is different about this moment in time that we're in that can give Latinos hope that this time it will be different?
I think, buenos dias, everybody. I think one of the main things when I think about this question is I think about track record. And for those of us who come from the immigrant rights movement, you probably remember where you were in 2016 when Trump got elected. And I see some of the nodding. You also probably remember the months later when many of you probably had to be on the lookout in neighborhoods because raids were happening. Raids were happening. They were not unprecedented because they had been happening before, but you could tell that there was a ramp up to do mass deportations. So what is different now? We know that Trump has Project 2025. No matter how much he wants to distance himself from it, that is his blueprint. And his blueprint doesn't include immigrants. It doesn't see us as human. It doesn't see the children of immigrants as human. You know, the fact that he is thinking about getting rid of birthright citizenship, that is absolutely wrong. The fact that he's thinking about keeping families apart as opposed to together, that is absolutely immoral. So what I think that what we have now is we've seen the damage that this can cause. We've said this time and time again, we cannot go back. We cannot go back because we have families that depend on us at the federal level, but then also in my role as a state representative, at the state level where honestly, we've been fighting in the front lines to make sure that our communities are not broken apart.
And before I go to Teresa to answer the same question, I'll just say, one really important point from our research is presenting new information about the future, not just relying on the past of what Trump did. You would not believe how much amnesia voters have about what happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So presenting new information, we know what he has said he will do. And so knowing that and being able to say that is what the future will look like is an important contrast piece we've seen in our research. So Teresa, what is new about this moment and about Kamala?
You know, Kamala Harris and both Biden and Kamala Harris administration did what they could, knowing that we didn't have Congress and we didn't have the Senate. They had parole in place, something that gives now workers who have labor issues a way to defend themselves without being fired or deported. He did, they just announced in June, and it became effective now, now escapes the name.
Immigration relief.
Immigration relief for undocumented spouses that have been here, were married. That is what they could do, and they did it. If we have her there, we're going to work with her so she can do more for our communities. The Latino community is growing, and we are voting. We are voting. And she's listening to us. Kamala Harris came to the UFW convention in 2016. She has marched with us. She has been vocal supporting the legislation for farm workers. So this is a woman, I'd like to say, show, don't tell. And this is a woman who has shown us.
Congresswoman, what is new about this moment?
Say the question again.
What is new about this moment and about Kamala's candidacy for immigration reform and how it will be different this time?
Well, it'll be the very first time we have a woman in the White House, and y'all know that women get things done. So leave it to a woman. We're gonna help her make it happen. And we were actually, Clerk Iris Martinez and I were talking in the back, and she said, we're gonna just leave it to the President of Mexico and Madam President of the United States.
I love
figure
that.
this immigration
I love that.
problem. That is a problem only because we haven't actually prioritized it into a solution. Sí se
Yes,
puede.
sí se puede.
So, look, I think she comes from a state that is the 5th largest economy in the world, California. Why is it the 5th largest economy? Immigrants. She is going to be able to talk about immigration as a solution to our Social Security, our Medicare, to grow our GDP, and to make sure that everyone in this country has Social Security and has access to health care. So I'm feeling very hopeful, and I am ready to say, Madam President, let's get this done.
Woo! Last question here.
Fire up.
Last question. It's a really important one because Teresa just mentioned this, but President Biden announced the immigration relief for undocumented spouses in June. The rule was final on this Monday. It's impacting upwards of 500,000 undocumented spouses. Those undocumented spouses are in mixed status families, many people who can vote. So we need to, there is a lot of energy, and our polling showed that there is tremendous support for this among Latino voters, among non-Latino voters, including white and African American voters. There's just broad support for a very common sense solution. So how can this policy be leveraged in this election to help increase Latino voter turnout?
You know, we're talking about, like you said, 500,000 people that could benefit. Those are 500,000 families that are going to see a huge change in their lives. These are 500,000 people across the country that now can vote. Now they feel that they have an administration that they can trust and that they can move forward. And they also will, now that they felt the benefit of the Biden-Harris administration, they know that a Harris administration would support immigration reform and would help us get people out to vote. Those people who have already benefited from these limited, I understand, changes, she can make them if we have the House, if we have the Senate, and if we go and have the presidency, if we need to go out and vote so we can get there and give it the ability to make sure that we get the immigration reforms that we need.
Representative Avelar, to close out.
I mean, to Teresa's point, as you were talking, I remember 2008 when President Obama won, and my mom actually just showed me this a couple of weeks ago. She still had the front page of the newspaper with a Post-it note that said, "We have President Obama, immigration reform is coming." Okay? And it didn't come. Why do I say this? Because while immigration reform has not come, there has been plenty of things that we've been able to do at the federal level that have allowed for people to get to a pathway to citizenship. DACA is a prime example. DALE is a prime example. And this new executive order as well is a prime example, because what we need to do is we need to explain to voters, right, and not just voters, but the constituency as well, that there's polling that shows that people do support a fix in our immigration system. It's how we go about it that's going to be crucial, because immigration reform could be, you know, something as border security and mass deportations, which is what we would have with Trump, or it could be an actual pathway to citizenship through DACA, through DALE, and through other executive orders, through getting rid of the 3 and 10-year bars, which is something that I will continue to fight for.
That's right.
You know, I'm not at the federal level, but I will continue to be a voice to say, like, we need to get that done. Because at the end of the day, what we want to make sure that we do here is that we continue to uphold our values, the values of the U.S., which is that we are a nation of immigrants.
Congresswoman.
You know, I said this to the president when we had an opportunity to talk to him about immigration a couple months ago. I know that you want us to be your surrogates. You want the elected officials to be surrogates. But let's be honest. Our people don't trust politicians, and they have many reasons not to trust us. We promise, we campaign, and oftentimes you don't deliver. Your biggest surrogates are la esposa y el esposo de la mujer o el hombre that finally have a work permit. That's your biggest surrogates right there. We have an opportunity to move 500,000 U.S. citizens married to these spouses from their couch to the ballot. Those are the surrogates that are going to go to la iglesia, la lavandería, and to el tío y el primo que no quieren votar y decir, it was the Biden-Harris administration that gave my husband and my wife papeles. And that's going to be really, really critical leading to November. And we got to get that message out.
Yeah.
And we got to get as many people with those appointments right now.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you, panelists. Before we wrap this panel, I want to finish on one note, which is the election is a point in this long-term journey of passing immigration reform. we will have to organize to actually get it done. And so I would like we have to do something to get it done. And so I would like Teresa to end us on something very symbolic that will help remind us of the organizing that has happened to make things happen and move change in our world. I'm in the farm worker movement, so Teresa, close us out.
I would like you to join me in the UFW Farm Worker Movement applause, and I want to hear a very, very loud "Sí se puede."
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Well, we heard some incredible women talk about immigration, talk about, making sure that we relate to our people how important the Biden-Harris campaign was instrumental in making sure that our immigration continued to move forward, that our dreamers, that our folks that are waiting, we continue to move them forward. So thank you so much to the previous panel, Representative Velan, Honorable Delia Ramirez, and of course, Teresa Romero. They have some great insight on the things to deal with immigration. Please listen to some of the things that they're saying, because this is what we have to drive home. We have to explain to people why it's important that the Latinos come out to vote. They are vested. They are vested in making sure that our community moves forward, and we can make the difference in this coming election. So I want to introduce a phenomenal woman who I'm just so proud of. She has done some great work. She's going to introduce the next panel. And let me talk to you a little bit about this phenomenal woman, Monica. I would call Monica. She's a force to be reckoned with. She is the Deputy Executive Director for the DNC, but she previously served as Deputy Chief Operations Officer at the DNC, helping build and support a diverse, coordinated campaign with state parties to win up and down the ballots. And in prior working campaigns, Monica practiced employment law in various law firms in Denver, Colorado. She's a first-generation Mexicana-Americana, como decimos nosotros, been involved in campaigns since 2012. So she's the real deal. If someone can talk to you about real campaigns and what really goes into it, is this woman. I'm just so proud to have her here to address this next panel. But more important, she's a friend. She's relentless. She works 24/7. She never rests. So let's give it up for Monica.
Thank you, Edith, for that kind introduction. Thank you all for being here. I know it's a long week, so much excitement, and I know lots of parties, lots of fiestas, and also what a great night at United Center last night and Monday, so really appreciate all of you being here. I'm Monica Guardiola, Interim Executive Director at the DNC, and I'm really excited about the panel that we are having. We're going to start today. We have some real powerhouses, and really hope to really get some good information from them. So if we can have the panel come up with us, and I will introduce them as they're coming up. We have Janet Murguia. She has led Unidos Action Fund for many years. I'm sure you have read about her and seen a lot about her. Closer? Sorry. Thank you. I always can count on Artie for keeping me honest. Thank you, Artie. We also have Maria Teresa. Here we have Janet, Maria Teresa Kumar, who is leading Voto Latino. I am sure. I am sure I often see her on CNN and is always reporting on the Latino vote and really is playing a critical part in this election year in her way. And also we have Representative Greg Casar from Texas. Representative Casar was just elected in 2023, so a new member, and we look forward to hearing from him and also see what he does. And also we have Secretary Fontes, Adrian Fontes, from Arizona. As you all know, it is a battleground state, and also there is a very good large Latino population there, and so look forward to hearing about him and what they're doing in Arizona. So I will get us started just with somewhat of a softball question. We all can look them up and see all the accolades and all the great accomplishments and all the work that this group of people have done. If you Google them, you will see that they really are fighting for Latinos day in and day out. But I wanted to get to know them a little more personally. And so, Janet, I'll start with you and just ask you here today in this moment, what is bringing you alegría and excitement? And what about your history has gotten you here to this moment?
Oh my goodness. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. It's great to see you all. My name is Janet Murguia, represent Unidos US. We were formerly known as the National Council of La Raza. Some of you may remember that. But today, what's bringing me joy, I just got a little picture of my two great nieces. And they're back in Kansas City. Their dad's a firefighter. Their mom works for the regional office of the Department of Labor. And, you know, they're like 2 and about almost 4. And, you know, they're beautiful little girls. I think about, you know, the path that I have had and that my family, my parents have had. And I just want to make sure that the path forward for them is bright and full of potential. You know, this is a really important moment in time for a lot of us as we're looking ahead to the future. And they bring me so much joy when I'm around them, and I want a future for them that can be a future that gives them every opportunity to do whatever they want to do and be whoever they want to be. And right now, I'm thinking of Gianna Belen and Imara Gael, and they're bringing me a lot of joy. And I think about all the young people who are out there counting on us in this moment. So just one last thing. My parents, they came from Michoacan, Mexico with nothing and settled in, of all places, in Kansas City. But they had big dreams, and they worked hard like all of our families. And I'll just say that of my siblings, I have there's 6 of us, 6 siblings. There's 7 of us kids. But all of us achieved our post-secondary education degrees. There's 4 lawyers, 2 federal judges. And just want to make sure the American dream stays within reach for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you for sharing that with us. Maria Teresa?
First of all, thank you so much for the conversation. What gives me joy, I'm kind of a data nerd. So what gives me joy is that as of yesterday, we've registered 96,677 voters. In a state like Arizona, where Biden won by 10,400 votes and change, we have already registered 11,776 voters. And so what gives me joy is that when people keep asking about where the Latino vote is, I always say, we gave you California. Mm-hmm. We're giving you Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and we have our eyes on Texas. And very rarely do we have alignment where young people are doing the work that our parents seeded us. We have been leaders, and I say we because I still consider myself young, but it's not. Young Latinos Voto Latino focuses on young Latinos because long before they turn 18 years old, they're helping navigate America. And they have far more responsibility than the average teenager. And what Voto Latino tries to do every single day is provide people with agency to give their voice and their power. In this election, just again in Arizona, we have 163,000 Latino youth that have heard 18. Our opportunity with Kamala Harris on top of the ticket is to put our pedal to the metal. I'm ESL, you can tell. Pedal to the metal and register all the voters. This is an opportunity for us to close the voter registration gap. And we register, we turn out in November, and then we make demands in January. Because there's plenty of issues that our community needs. And what gives me joy and the ability to do the work every day is when I see someone like the congressman who came to a Voto Latino Power Summit and realized that he could be an activist, push the system, or become part of the system, and push in and work with the activists. And so, Congressman, I think you were one of the youngest members of the Austin City Council. You passed fair wages, and now you're one of the youngest members of Congress. And because of his class in Congress right now, there are as many Garcias as there are Smiths, and that gives me hope.
Well, it brings me a lot of joy is Maria Teresa saying nice things about me. Thank you so much. And just being here with everybody, this energy has been so incredible. And I think it's proof that when we listen to our voters and listen to our communities and actually don't just fight against something, but give people something excited to be excited about and to fight for, that we can do incredible and amazing things. And it's just such an awesome reminder. So I'm just so happy to be here with y'all today.
What brings me joy would be a nice bowl of menudo for this hangover, but I think what actually, we just got to keep it real, folks. Estamos entre familia, right? What really brings me joy is the increasing capacity that we have as Latinos in this country, and I think there's going to be a paradigm shift very soon, and that paradigm shift is going to be. We have found ourselves standing on the shoulders of giants who tried to get in, who tried to get into those places of power, those halls, to be sitting at the table. And as is the case with Garcias and Smiths, in our 90-member legislature in Arizona, there are 6 who have the surname Hernandez, which is a big deal proportionately. And so the paradigm shift that brings me joy is thinking about the days when we can shift our focus from getting into the door into taking the power while we are at the table and becoming more sophisticated as leaders, becoming more competent to be able to utilize the power that we have struggled so mightily to attain with members of Congress and city councils and state legislatures. That paradigm shift and the expectation of it is what gives me joy. The one thing, though, I think that Monica also said was to ask something unusual about ourselves.
Okay.
Are we going to do that, or are we skipping
Sure,
over?
go ahead, Secretary Fontes.
Because I prepared myself for
Okay,
it
go ahead.
mentally. She said, tell them something about you that they can't Google. And I said, well, I mean, you might be able to Google the fact that I was the lead male vocalist with the mariachi at Arizona State University when I was... Does anybody here have a birthday or an anniversary or just a special day? Anybody? Henry, are you? Anybody? No? Entonces, allá atrás?
Yeah.
Bueno, felicidades. Estas son las mañanitas que cantaba el rey David. Hoy por ser día de tu santo, te las cantamos aquí.
Wow.
If you want the rest, buy me a tequila later and we'll do it.
Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing. And I think what I heard is what's bringing all of us joy is we have Janet really looking at the future and what the future can hold or will hold for her grandnieces. And we have Maria Teresa and she is showing us with the numbers just the progress that we have made as Latinos. All these organizations have made in really engaging Latinos. And I think having Representative Casar, that he is our representative, that we see a Latino coming out of Texas with a bright future, and he's a rising star that we will start seeing in Congress. And I think with the compliments that Maria Teresa gives him, it's because she sees it. I think we can all see it, and an up-and-comer that we have to watch and support as he continues. And I think with Secretary Fontes, just the progress that we've seen in Arizona, wasn't that long ago that really, as somebody who works in Democratic electoral politics, Arizona wasn't always in play. and now it is, and then it slowly got purple, and now really purple. I mean, we would say more red, but getting to purple in the time that I've been involved. And I think that is something that Secretary Fontes continues to fight so that Latinos can vote. And when more people vote, Democrats win. And so thank you all, and thank you for sharing. So we'll get started a little bit with our questions, and I also had our great team ask the audience for some questions, which I'll also read, but we'll get started here. Janet, leading Unidos for as long as you have and doing all the great work, how do you see the current, we have all seen that voting rights is a very central issue to your organization and to the community. How do you see the current state of voting rights, and very particularly for the Latino community?
Yes, thank you, Monica. At Unidos US, we've focused a lot on the policy issues that impact our community for now 56 years, being a voice on behalf of those issues with the civil rights lens, alongside sister organizations like MALDEF and others. But in this area of voting rights, what we do know is that voter suppression efforts targeting Hispanic voters are not new. Hispanic voters have historically been the target of voter suppression in states like Arizona, Texas, and elsewhere. And that's why these states were included in the Voting Rights Act. But all of that is in question, especially since the Supreme Court decision in a case called Shelby essentially eviscerated a lot of the protections that would allow interventions by the Department of Justice to see. What am I talking about? I'm talking about when states or jurisdictions try to change the hours that you can vote, where the ballot boxes are, where and what times you can vote, and so what days you can vote. All of these changes and requiring IDs, and when that's not historically been part of our system, all of these changes put in question the ability for our voters to have access and to use their vote at the ballot box. We have to be vigilant. It's why local and elected boards and officials in roles that maybe some people used to say were sleepy councils become really important. Our representation in all of those roles matter when they make decisions that make it harder for our people to have a right to vote. And the narrative that now is being promoted by the most extreme and some of the mainstream folks in the Republican Party is that now somehow waves and thousands of non-citizens are voting, when in fact, we have no evidence that has been shown. It is minuscule and often by inadvertent efforts. And yet, you have a narrative often in different social media platforms, and verbally, the candidate himself has said that there were 30,000 illegal voters in the last election. That is not true. So what we have to do, and what we've been doing at Unidos US alongside many of our other organizations that are aligned in this space, has been to basically say, one, we need representation in those bodies to make sure that we have accurate data and it shows none of this is happening, but in terms of the non-citizen voter narrative, but also to fight for the changes that will help us get more access to the ballot box. And ultimately, we need to make sure that for our community, that representation is across the board, and we need the Voting Rights Act to be reinstated. There's a John Lewis Voting Rights Act that has been promoted by Congress, and we need to fight for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and we need to make sure any elected official has said that he or she will support, as they're running for their office and re-election or for election, that they will support the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the protections that come with that.
Thank you, Janet. And just also plugging that Vice President Harris is a big proponent of that legislation that Janet is talking about. And so very important that she get elected, and also that your local Congress members, you ask those questions of your local Congress members. Do they support the John Lewis Act, and hold them accountable? Thank you, Janet. Secretary Fontes, you're up. Being in Arizona, you're really at the front lines of ensuring a fair and secure election. And Arizona being a battleground state, what do you see as one of the biggest challenges in Arizona for November in making sure that that happens in Arizona?
I think one of the biggest challenges in November is going to be the same challenge that we see across the United States of America. And that's going to be the notion of getting folks out to vote in the first place. We have varying rules across the United States of America, varying spaces for early voting. It exists in most jurisdictions in one form or another. But I will say that's not just the biggest challenge. There is a solution. And I know we all like talking about challenges, but here's the solution. Now, without raising your hand, I'd like folks to think about whether or not you like voting on Election Day. And if you do like voting on Election Day, it's probably for some over-romanticized and some sentimental reason. Here's why I think that's a very selfish thing, and I suggest that you change your mind and you change your behavior. Because every single one of you who is waiting till Election Day is wasting resources from our campaigns and our candidates. Because they've got to chase you, they've got to send you postcards, they've got to call you on the phone, they've got to come knock on your door, and if you're waiting till Election Day, you're wasting resources. This is a turnout game for us. In many jurisdictions, the reason that our turnout is low because we continue this ridiculous narrative that Election Day is the day that you have to go vote. And what I would suggest to you, particularly as delegates, but everybody in here, is the following. The first day you are eligible to vote, go and vote. Vote on the first day you are eligible to go vote. Whether it's 2 weeks in North Carolina or 27 days in Arizona. The solution to our problem isn't the fact that people aren't voting, it's the fact that we're wasting resources chasing our voters who should already have voted. Don't be that voter. And we love our tradition. We love our communities. But look, if you want to meet your neighbor and you want to hang out with your neighbors, go trick-or-treating on Halloween. If you want to hang out in a cool place, in a community center with a whole bunch of people gather up for a special occasion, go to church. But if you are eligible to vote before Election Day, you are harming our candidates. You are hurting our cause. You are wasting resources by waiting. And I am getting preachy on this because we keep leaving votes on the table. We're chasing our 4s and our 5s, and our 3s and our 2s are being left behind. Let's go get them after you have voted.
Yep. You heard it from Secretary Fontes, vote early, and I will top that and say make a party of it. I know that when I go and vote early, I invite at least 4 or 5 friends, and then we go and have lunch, dinner, or tequila maybe if it's 2 hours later. But really, I think that's right. And also, just want to put a plug in, once you vote early, the calls will stop. I know that everybody loves to hear from the campaigns, and we are working hard to make those calls happen, but then we can take you off of our list, we can stop bothering you, and then we can use that money to call somebody else who hasn't voted. So please, please vote early. Thank you, Secretary Fontes.
Mail it in early.
Mail it in, because they're tracking it. Yeah, they're all tracking it, and that's...
We should be campaigning earlier. We know when the ballots are going to arrive. We know who our candidates are. We know what the issues are well ahead of time. It is irresponsible to continue this Election Day tradition in a time and a place where we have all that information early. We are cheating our own communities when we keep with this ridiculous tradition. Voting is not about one day, it's about a season, and it's about preserving our rights. We're kidding ourselves if we hang on to that practice of the past, and it hurts us all because of what Monica said. I'm really passionate about this, if you can't tell, you guys. I'm really passionate.
Thank you. I think Thank you so much. One of the other, I think, threats to our democracy that we are seeing, and especially in our communities, is misinformation. Maria Teresa, as we've all seen, it's a significant threat to democracy, especially in this election year. How is Voto Latino addressing the spread of misinformation within the Latino community? And what strategies have you seen that we can all help with to stop the misinformation?
I mean, a few things. I think we're all touching upon similar things, but you know, as Secretary, one of the things that we did at Voto Latino is recognizing that people were, one of the things that we did at Voto Latino, recognizing people were waiting for the last minute, was that we actually made it election season. And as a result, I could tell you with some of the work that we did is that of the people that we registered to vote in 2020, we created interventions, and the interventions worked. And 83% of the people that cast a ballot that we registered voted early.
That's wonderful.
And the cool thing about that is that all of a sudden you start giving people, it's every day is a party, right? Every day is a party. You're like, okay, your momentum. And so what we did in Georgia is like, once we started seeing that Latinos were voting early, we made sure that we talked to the local media to say, look, Latinos are they're going early. And then all of a sudden, you get FOMO, you know, fear of missing out. And so we would love to share with you some of the strategies that we're seeing that people all of a sudden saying, oh my goodness, and we focus solely on low propensity voters because we recognize that campaigns have limited campaigns. So we're trying to figure out how to balance that. But switching on to why we do misinformation and disinformation, Voto Latino, when the Voting Rights Act basically gutted us, the best underreported story was that Shelby County had experienced a 200% increase in the last census of the Latino population. This is about us. And so one of the things that we did was immediately start taking notes, and Voto Latino has sued in Texas, in Arizona, in Nevada, Colorado, and North Carolina, accessing our votes. Because when people are trying to say that the wrong person is voting, they mean American Latinos. We know when they say that they're trying to falsify at the polls, that undocumented illegal voters, it is us, and we should be tremendously offended. Because we're not asking for anything more. We're asking for access to the voting booth because it is our universal right. And so the reason that Voto Latino started not only suing, but also started pursuing disinformation is a clear understanding that disinformation is meant to persuade us not to participate in our democracy. It is because the forces that be understand the rising giant that we are, and that the moment we cast our ballot, we are setting forth the course of the 21st century of this country. So when you hear disinformation, it is because they want us to undermine our institutions of democracy and our trust. And so we invested hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, working very closely with partners, understanding the community, hearing what they're hearing, and then reversing. I'll give you one example. Our community was being devastated by COVID because of anti-vaxxers. Our community are the essential workers. Our community did not have a choice as whether or not they were going to be essential workers. It is a term that I always cringe because essential for who? And so the fact that you had nefarious activities from foreign actors and the extreme right to prevent our families from getting a vaccine, I took that personally. So we partnered with Google and identified what were the issues that Latinos were hearing, and then we basically played it back into their platforms. And of the folks that saw our ad, 54 times more likely to get a COVID vaccine. It was so effective that we worked with Pfizer to ensure that our children were also getting vaccinated.
Thank you, Maria Teresa. Representative Casar, I'm very excited that you are a new Congress member. Thank you for being here, and really lots of luck in Texas. As a member of Congress, I think being new and being fresh, you've witnessed firsthand the impact of misinformation.
I sit next to Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene in committee.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you really have some stories. So tell us, what role do you believe lawmakers can take to help us all combat misinformation, and how can Congress work to protect integrity in the democratic process?
Well, I've seen firsthand that other folks elected to Congress, especially the right-wing Republican members, that's misinformation is basically their job. It's what they, like, we were sent to improve people's lives, to pass and work on laws, and I don't see them doing that ever. They just spend their time on misinformation, and as Maria Teresa said, the goal oftentimes isn't just to convince someone of the misinformation, it's just to discourage people from participating in politics at all, right? I sat on the committee that dealt with this 2-year-long ridiculous inquiry, supposedly into President Biden, but it was all about Hunter Biden, who holds no office. And when we'd ask ourselves, why did they spend so much of their time doing this? I mean, like, who runs for office to do that? It's because they want to say, well, our guy, Trump, Trump is a criminal, but like everybody's sort of a criminal. Or they know that Trump is corrupt, but isn't everybody? And does Congress really do anything? They want folks, as you've heard it probably a million times in our community, pues todo está son igual. Everybody's got a problem. Nothing can really get done. And what we have to be able to do, I think, to combat misinformation is to walk the walk and show people that our democracy can deliver for people. I think it matters at every single level. Say like, hey, you know how that sidewalk got built? It's because some people actually cared and got involved. Hey, how that park got cleaned up. Hey, why we got that increased unemployment during COVID. Hey, those new jobs coming in, that was something that President Biden did, but that we all advocated for, is to show that our democracy can work. And when we have the conversation about why we haven't passed the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, it's in part because of the filibuster in the Senate that I think works against us every step of the way. I know we can be scared that at a lower threshold that Republicans could pass stuff, but they're not actually really interested in doing much because they can win if they show that we just can't do anything. And so I think on top of, say, asking people, are you for the Voting Rights Act? Are you for the PRO Act? Are you for these key pieces of legislation? It's also, are you for us being able to actually do our jobs? Because I think our Latino community wants to see our political system be able to deliver, and then when they can't deliver, that's when folks are vulnerable to this misinformation and to Trumpism.
Thank you, Representative Casar. I am getting Eddie back here is telling me I really need to move it along, and so I will follow instructions. I'm going to do one thing. Eddie's going to kill me. We're going to do rapid fire. I'm going to ask one question of each of you really quick. I think, and I want it is for us to take with us, democracy only works with civic engagement and participation. Starting with Maria Teresa, give us quick, what instructions do you give us so we go out into our communities to help really engage communities, Latinos to vote? Quick.
Be focused, fierce, and unapologetic that we're going to register all the voters and overwhelm them at the voting booth.
Woo. Secretary Fontes.
Ganas. It's that simple. We have to do the work. I think Maria Teresa hit the nail on the head.
Yep. Representative Casar.
I think we can't be scared to stand for our real values. And so when, we should be able to take on the Elon Musks of the world, tackle the big issues, pick a fight. Our communities want to see us pick a fight. And on immigration, I don't think we need to be Republican light. We should be able to proudly say immigration is good. And in fact, when they keep saying that we're pro-immigrant because we want a bunch of new voters, I think in part it's misinformation, but they want us to back off of the idea that there should be a pathway for citizenship for the people who've been here 10 and 20 and 30 years. I'm proud to say that the people that have been here 10 and 20 and 30 years, that people should get a right to become citizens and vote. These folks have that right, and we should be able to stand firmly towards it and not apologize for it.
Thank you, Representative Casar. And Janet, close us out.
Make a plan to vote. I'm so proud that at Unidos US, we've registered almost 1 million new voters in the last decade. Those votes count, and as we've heard from Secretary Fontes, let's build on those who are already voting and bring in new voters. Make a plan to vote, bring your family members, talk to your community, talk to your neighbors. We need to deliver every vote. We had a race in Arizona that just closed up. It was a primary, but the vote differential was 38 votes between those two candidates. You think your vote doesn't matter? It matters.
It matters.
And every vote counts.
Okay, everyone, you heard it here.
con ganas.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Maria Teresa.
It's like, vota con ganas.
Con ganas.
Voten con ganas. Thank you so much for this panel. Thank you all for
Let's
your
win in the
patience.
fall for Harris and Walls.
How about a shout out to Monica and her role at the DNC representing our Latino community?
I think we have, thank you. We have some other speakers. I do really quickly just want to say that this doesn't happen with all the work that Edie's and Eddie put together. So also really thank you to everyone for putting this panel together.
Thank you so much, everyone. We just have a couple more speakers, but it's going to be very quick. Please do not leave yet. We want to bring up now when you talk about leadership in the DNC, we talk about our vice chair. We have a great individual who's been the vice chair at the DNC. He knows how to raise money. He is a fabulous man with just great things ahead of him, but he belongs to us. He's part of the DNC, vice chair of the DNC. Let me bring up Henry Munoz. Henry.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. I'm not going to talk about the DNC today. I'm going to talk about our power. I walked into this room today and I remembered a day in 2011, Edie's, when a group of us got together and decided that demography is not destiny, and that our community was more important than any one presidential election, that it was more important than any one campaign. And we worked together. Janet was in those meetings. Hilda was in those meetings to develop an organization called Latino Victory, with the idea that until we saw the percentage of representation at every level of government reflect our population, we would never achieve what we had to achieve. That's exactly right. And that one of these days we would be standing at a convention recognizing the nomination of a Latino to the presidency of the United States. So as good as we feel today, and as excited we are about this year, I think it's time for us to not just talk to each other, but to talk to the people who actually wield power in this country, to begin to articulate for them and for ourselves what we need in order to make sure that the people who make decisions in this country look like us, are us, and share our values. We made a lot of progress, and we have a long way to go. And I appreciate you sitting in this room today to listen. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm also going to bring up, once again, someone who just wants to make sure that she drives the message. You know, she has an incredible, history with the White House. She has done some great work, but today she wants to come and just say one more time how important it is for us to be out there getting the vote. Ida Solis.
Wow. All right, sí se puede. You guys fired up? Did you get to see our past President Obama and his wife, Michelle, last night? How are you feeling? Fired up? I am. And you know what? We're going to drive it home. And you heard some very eloquent speeches and also very poignant about the necessity for us to get out to vote, to understand that all of us are in this together and that we have to make sure that we unify and that when we go back to our communities, wherever they are, me, California, but some of you in some of those red states or neighborhoods that we still have to get people to turn over, we need to work hard. This is our opportunity, and it will only come around in certain occasions. For the first time, we're going to have a woman that is a child of immigrants. So that's good, that's important, but we have our own experience. We have many, many years working very hard on immigration reform, making sure that our DACA students have a path to citizenship and all those that are 11 million that are still waiting, but also making sure that our economy is number one. Our people have suffered through the pandemic. We were taken care of in certain ways by the Biden-Harris administration. Now we need to bring it up to 2.5 and make sure that we have housing, affordable housing, that we also have good pensions, that we have good salaries. Minimum wage has to be above $15 in many parts of our country, and making sure that there's good pensions in retirement and affordable health care. Prescription drugs, we know we have high rates of chronic illnesses, diabetes, and all of that. And we need to make sure that those pharmaceutical companies come down and meet us, and we make sure that the administration is on our side. So when they get elected, we remind them that we were there for them, and they need to be there for us. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Okay, now, I know a lot of you, I know it's been a long meeting, but this is going to be important. I'm going to bring two young women out here that we're going to hear from, because it is about the future of our party, and it is about getting shit done. I'm just going to say it, because that's what we have to do. When Henry said we've got to talk to people with power, we got to make sure we're still talking to our people and informing them. That's what gives them their power. So I'm going to bring up a sister and hermana, Michelle Villegas. I want her to come up. She was the one keeping us moving for the last 6-7 years at the DNC, being our Hispanic director. Now she is part of the Hispanic, leading the coalition director for the Harris Walls campaign. And she's going to go through what we've got going on, and we need you to share it with your gente. So Michelle, por favor, hermana.
Hola, hola latinos, ¿cómo están? Buenos días. For all of you who don't know me yet, I'm Michelle Villegas Tapia. I'm the Latino Engagement Director nationally for the Harris Walls campaign. So it's good to be with you all today. I know we're running a little over, so I'll move through this quickly. But I want to make sure we all leave here today with some concrete things we can do, next steps to make sure that Latinos are helping us to win those margins across battleground states, because Latinos are everywhere. I wanted to start with just a few key highlights of all the different Latino engagement work that we've done on the campaign so far. So, the Vice President has been out there on Latino radio. She's been out there on the road. We have Latino field offices across the country. And we have recently had some really great endorsements from LULAC, from Voto Latino, from Latino Victory Fund. So we have a great, robust crew of Latino organizations and work happening. We know that Latino voters are key to the path to victory for us. So Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, these are places where Latino voters are going to help us win and be the margin of victory in these races. So we have invested early. We are building real infrastructure in these communities to make sure that Latinos are organized and that they have the tools they need in order to get out and vote. We have offices in targeted communities that are designed to be cultural centers, that are bilingual, that we are engaging our comunidad in ways that is not just about the campaign, but is also about civic engagement and about long-term organizing. And we're meeting Latinos where they are, and that means online, in person, at events. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our WhatsApp that launched this week, and you all are going to join it. So a couple of the ways that we can mobilize is through relational organizing. So we have a Reach app, and we can use Reach. It's an app on your phone. We can use it to have conversations with our friends and family in person, and then log that into the Reach app so that the campaign can follow up with them. We also have bilingual Spanish phone banks. So we have phone banks that you can join every Thursday and every Saturday on the campaign. And you can join those from anywhere. And we can make calls to Latino voters in English and in Spanish to make sure that they know that they have to vote in November and that they have all the tools in order to do that. And so it's super important, especially for our Spanish voters, Spanish language. It's so important for us to have that special touch with someone in language, and that we have that across the battleground states. So these are really important. We are also doing national organizing calls with Latinos con Biden-Harris. We have Latinas con Harris, Latino men. We've got Latino youth calls. So lots of different ways for opportunities of engagement. And this is if you want to join REACH, you can do that here. And that's our relational organizing tool. Like I said, we know that Latino voters, the best way to reach them is with in-person conversations from your trusted friends and family, right? So a message to a Latino voter is so much more valuable when it comes from your tía, your tío, your primo, right? And so that's all of you. We need you to talk to your friends and family, and then use the REACH app to track those conversations so that we know. You can put in there, today I talked to my tío. He is gonna vote in November, but he's on the fence. And so we know that he got a touch from you, and the campaign can then follow up and make sure that we're getting him out to vote in November. Okay, now everyone keep your phones out, because I'm gonna need you all to scan this QR code. This is super, super exciting, and one of the ways in which the Harris Walls campaign is doing culturally competent engagement with Latinos. This week, we launched our brand new Latinos con Harris Walls WhatsApp channel. This is the first time that a presidential campaign in the United States has ever had a WhatsApp channel. And it's huge. It's super exciting and super important, because we know that Latinos are communicating on WhatsApp. I get my buenos dias, bendiciones, happy Monday every day, right? From my mom, from my abuelita. We are on WhatsApp. And so the campaign is making an effort to make sure that we're reaching Latinos exactly where they already are. And one of those places is WhatsApp. We're making it super easy for folks to join the channel, and it's an easy way to get Latino voices who are on the campaign. We're gonna have special behind the scenes content of things like at convention, for example. We have fun videos, fun content that you can only get on our WhatsApp. And we're also gonna help stop the spread of misinformation and disinformation by sharing, actual pieces from the campaign, data from the campaign, making sure that Latino voters know how to talk about the Latino vote and how to talk about the vice president and Governor Walz to their friends and family. So that's my last ask for you today. Please join our WhatsApp channel and also share it with your friends and family, because I know that we all have a tía who's gonna take this WhatsApp channel and run with it, right? And that's what we need, that's what we want. So I just wanna say thank you so much for having me here today. We're gonna win together, and the only way we can get a big win in November is by mobilizing our communities and making sure that each one of us is having the conversations with our friends and family, and that we are mobilizing our community. So whatever you can do, whether it's joining the WhatsApp, hosting a watch party, making some phone calls, knocking on doors, you have all the tools that you need in order to get involved and to organize. We're Latinos, we're natural organizers, and so we gotta get in it and get ready to win in November. So thank you so much. Good to see you all.
Okay, all right. I want to bring up someone that I asked specifically to bring out. This is the future Latinas, organizers. I'm so proud of this young lady. She is from the state of Nevada. First of all, she has a Bachelor's of Science pre-law track from UNLV. majoring in biology with a concentration of physiology. She's the first Latina, first Nevadan, and first elected female national president of the College Democrats of America. This is the future of our party. We need our young people that have that energy, have that passion, and I'm 50 years old and she's gonna teach me something as well about reaching her generation. The president of the National College Democrats of America, Carolina Salvador Avila. Thank you.
How are we doing today, Dems? Good. I don't hear you. How are we doing today, Dems? Eso, mis Latinos. Okay, well, good morning. My name is Carolina Salvador Avila. I am the national president for the College Democrats of America, and it is an honor to stand before you today. And I want to start this off by telling you a bit of a story. 13 years ago, when I was just 7 years old, my family was hit hard by the recession. And as some of you may know, Las Vegas was the hardest hit city in the country at the time. My parents had just separated and everything we had been foreclosed on. My mommy, an immigrant from Chile, was working 3 jobs to save enough money just to get us off the street and into a hotel. But like so many others in America, we were just trying to make it to the next day. I am so proud to say that through the hard work of my mamita and only through the miracles that come with living in America, we now live among doctors and lawyers. We run a nonprofit helping others just like us, and I am the first Latina elected to the national presidency of the College Democrats of America. My mom made the American dream possible for my brother and I. But you know who else is the American dream? Kamala Harris. Yes. Amigos, tenemos una oportunidad. We have an opportunity that is so incredible. We have the opportunity to elect a president who knows what it's like to fight for everything she has. She knows what it's like to live with a budget for a dream her parents passed down to her. She's ready to fight against greedy corporate fraudsters like Donald Trump who cut the line we've all been standing in. She will fight for our rights as citizens, as women, as children, as minorities, and as immigrants. And it is through the hope that I know as descendants of fighters we all have built inside us that we will elect Kamala Harris as our next president of the United States of America. Pero Latinos, we have to do our part. We have to help her win because we know what's on the line, don't we? We know what Donald Trump thinks of the hardworking immigrants that built this country. We know what Donald Trump thinks of the minorities that make up America. And we know that he will not fight for the hard workers, for the bartenders, the construction workers, the banquet workers, all the Latinos in this country that spend hours on their feet to feed their families. Yes. But let's remember, just because we know who to vote for, just because we know who the clear choice is, does not mean that our work is done. We have 76 days to show the country a piece of that hard work we know about. 76 days to talk to your friends, to your family, to dispel the misinformation your tías keep getting on Facebook and WhatsApp. 76 days to explain to your tíos and your abuelitos why women's rights are at stake in this election. 76 days to teach your abuelita what will happen to her health care if America's biggest clown is reelected.
Yes, that's right.
76 days to tell your friends what will happen to their dreamer homies if they don't vote blue up and down the ballot. We must vote blue all the way through. We cannot send Kamala and Tim to the White House without their friends in the House and the Senate. Latinos, we can deliver this for Kamala. And I know we can because I know how much y'all like to talk. I know we all love the chisme. So when you gossip with your neighbors, you spread that chisme. That's right. Tell them why Kamala is for you, for them, and for todos. When you have your families over for dinner on Saturday night, you tell them why Kamala is for todos. When you spend hours texting your amiguis on WhatsApp tonight and every night until November 5th, tell them why it is brat to vote for Kamala Harris. Tell them why Kamala es una reina. Yes. Kamala nomenon no puede suceder sin Latino nomenon. ¿Por qué? Porque cuando luchamos, ganamos. No los escucho. Cuando luchamos, ganamos. Muchas gracias. Los quiero mucho, Democrats.
Well, if that didn't inspire you, I don't know what will. Wow, what a phenomenal young lady. I see a beautiful future for this young lady, and she's going to places. And again, the message is out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, thank you for the troopers that hung with me to the end here. Thank you so much. But more important is what's at stake. There's a lot at stake. We Latinos are on the ballot, unfortunately, as far as if we don't elect Kamala Harris and they, the individuals, because I know it's not going to be us, vote the president, the former President Trump back in. We have a lot to lose. Remember one thing, it is about voting. In a lot of places, we have early voting. We have, same-day voting. Same-day registration and voting. There is no reason out there for someone not to come out to vote. Que dejen las excusas en la casa and get out there. Because guess what? If we don't, we're going to go back to 4 years of hell that we went through 4 years ago. So again, remember, the power for Latinos is our vote. If we want to be at the table, we have got to come out to vote. It takes a few minutes just to go do that. Please remind your family, your friends, anyone that you know in your community all over, make phone calls. This is the election of our lifetime in so many aspects. And we can be part of this, being the community that delivers Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House. So in saying that, I want to say thank you for hanging in there with us. I hope that you enjoyed the program. It was a little challenging. Again, we should have had more people, but again, we have a lot of problems with the buses. A lot of things just, it happens when we have so much excitement and people wanting to come to Chicago to be part of this, historic, move that can happen for us in real time. So, gracias a todos. Bendiciones para todo el mundo. And you know what? Let's rock it. Let's be that driving